Jim Sprinkles here with another video. Welcome back. So today we're going to do something slightly different. I'm going to narrate one of the games that I had the pleasure of playing in. I had the pleasure to participate in a game run by the enchanting Serena Michelle. She's a great GM. She has some books. I'll put them in the description. She's an author of the Tasha Chronicles. Check them out. So we had 4 players playing as talking dogs in a sci-fi system of adventure, and the players are as followed. Waffle, a charming corgi spelled W-O-P-H-Y-L, because apparently that play is weird, played by the magical Riniart. We also had a confused dog whose name was either God or Dog, and he was a skilled Labrador who provides comic relief, played by the crafty McCracken Crafts. We also had the Night Hound, a quick Chinese crested who plans, played by the illustrious Sam. And last but not least, we had Sir Vincent, a tough husky who fights, played by none other than yours truly, GM Sprinkles. These group of players are all great people. I would suggest following them. I'm going to put their links in the description below. Check them out. But let's get into the narration. Just a quick disclaimer before we get on with the narration. Just want to let you know, in this video I will be using the term for a female dog. I won't be using it in a derogatory way, I'll be using it for a female dog. If that does still offend you, I would advise clicking one of my other videos, which should be on the screen now. Otherwise, let's get on with the narration. The story begins in a world where some animals are enchanted with magic and can talk. Creatures such as trolls, ogres and goblins find the more magical a creature is, the more delicious it is. We start with 3 dogs that find themselves stuck together in a cage as they were captured by trolls so they can be prepared and cooked into a stew. The 3 dogs were a corgi named Waffle, a Labrador named God, or Dog, and a husky named Sir Vincent. The dogs began to look for escape when they heard laughter and commotion by their 4 nearby trolls, and to their surprise there was a 4th dog. A hairless dog appeared, and it seemed to be a Chinese crested. Not very long after, it was thrown into a cage with the other dogs. The trolls laughed at the hairless dog and called him Nudie. Once the new dog was in the cage, he introduced himself as the Night Hound and explained he is one with the night. And all the other dogs began to get to know each other and introduce each other before looking for an escape. One of the dogs spied a set of keys just hanging from the top of their cage. "Step back, I've got this," Sir Vincent said, and jumped onto God's back and leaped from God's back to the keys and catching them in his mouth. Sir Vincent hung there for a bit before falling to the ground as the keys disappeared as if an illusion, but it appeared to work as the cage swung open. God and Vincent attempted to sneak out of the now open cage, only to be noticed by the trolls, and all 4 dogs had to spring into action. Vincent had anger in his eyes, and etiquette was gone out of the window as he ran towards the first troll and tore its throat out. While the trolls were distracted, Waffle barked and exhaled a torrent of flame, killing 2 more trolls. With only 1 troll left, God began biting at the troll's feet, allowing the Night Hound to sneak up on the last troll, and together they killed it. All the trolls dead in this room, they began to look a way out to freedom, only to find that there were 6 exits to this one room in this cave, with no clue which one leads to freedom. They decided they had to work together and form a pack, and began to sniff out which was the best exit. But all tunnels seemed to be full of trolls, except for one, which had the smell of rotting food and excrement, which probably smelled quite good for the pack. The Night Hound called out into the tunnel to hear a response. "Be back soon, I'm on the John!" "That explains the smell," Night Hound said. The pack began to wander down the hall and the scent got stronger as the Night Hound went ahead to sniff out for traps. The Night Hound did manage to find some poison vines, which the pack managed to jump over and keep away safely, except for God, who carefully took some of the vines and saved them for later. They entered the toilet chamber and walked past the stone seats with the holes that went down, filled with various junk and excrement. The pack continued through this room into the next one and found that the path was blocked by a beagle. The beagle introduced himself as, "I'm Harry the Hedgehog." God barked and laughed at the silly dog until that dog began to growl back. The pack began to prepare for another fight before the beagle asked, "Oh, who are you guys?" "I'm Sally the Swan." God looked at the pack and then looked back at this strange beagle and said, "Don't worry, I know how to handle this. I have a joke that no dog can resist," he said. "Knock knock," he said with a smile. The beagle began to bark, and so did the rest of the pack. Couldn't resist the sound of knock knock, and then it turned into a howl. The pack were glad to help this confused beagle realize that they were also a dog and they should work together, but unfortunately this was only the start of the pack's troubles. The beagle growled and snapped at the pack before running deep into the tunnel. The pack decided to follow the beagle and ran, trying to keep up, until they ran through a doorway which slammed shut behind them and locked. The pack began to look around and realized that they were led into a large kitchen with a huge pot boiling in the back of the room, and standing before them were 2 trolls and a giant troll chef wielding a meat tenderizer in one hand and a cleaver in the others. "I did good, master, I did good! I led him here," the beagle spoke excitedly, sitting at the feet of one of the trolls. "Yeah, you did good, good boy," the troll said, patting him. The pack had no option but to spring into action. Schvincent ran at the beagle, cursing it and telling him that he's betrayed his own kind, and leapt at him, attempting to attack. While the night hound tried to leap on top of the kitchen bench and struggled to get up, and he fell back on his back. God, seeing that the night hound was in danger, wasted no time and went to attack the chef to draw his attention. This distracted the chef long enough for Waffle to bark out another torrent of flame at the other 2 trolls, burning them, but not killing them. God continued to run around and bite at the chef, but his teeth just kept getting stuck into his apron or onto his shirt. He just couldn't get a grip. The chef was just too large and too quick. And before he knew it, the chef's large meat tenderizer slammed in the side of God, causing him to yelp and whine in pain. Everyone seemed to look to see if he was okay, but Schvincent didn't. He didn't seem to notice. He was too focused on attacking the beagle, which his strong jaws took a chunk out of the back end of the beagle, causing him to cry out in pain. "Why are you attacking me? I'm just an innocent cat," the beagle said with its large puppy dog eyes. But Schvincent took no notice of that and felt no empathy for the beast, and didn't even pause before tearing into the beagle, killing it. "Oi, you killed my dog," the troll said, beginning to walk past Waffle towards Schvincent, ready to attack. As he did, Waffle bit the other troll and finished one of the other trolls off, so there was only 1 troll and a chef left. While this was happening, Nighthound finally got back up onto his feet, got on top of the kitchen bench, dodging the chef's large cleaver that swung towards him. The troll that approached Schvincent didn't last very long, as Schvincent jumped up and teared him into pieces before readying themselves to pounce at the chef, only to be hit by the same meat tenderizer as God. Schvincent let out a yelp in pain as more anger flashed in their eyes. The meat tenderizer now stuck with skin and fur of both Schvincent and God. After a momentary recovery, God, Waffle and Schvincent pounced and snapped at the troll, but it was no use. His skin was too tough. They couldn't seem to do any damage to him. As it all seemed hopeless, and this may be the end of the pack, the Nighthound managed to push over the boiling pot at the back of the room before throwing a knife at the chef. Tries to dodge out of the way of the knife, and only to slip on the now hot, wet floor before falling over and landing on his knife rack, killing him. The pack took this time to lick their wounds and clean up the dead trolls. With much difficulty, they tore the trolls into smaller pieces and put them into the pot with the poison vine and began cooking their own stew. Before they left the kitchen, God called out to the tunnel, "Oi, dinner's ready," before continuing onwards through the kitchen, deeper into the cave. Out of the kitchen, the Nighthound once again led ahead of the pack, leading them through the twist and turn of the cavern, until they got to a part of the cavern which narrowed. Nighthound seemed to be the only one who noticed the troll with a giant greatsword hiding there, but luckily for him, he hadn't seemed to notice the pack yet, so he alerted the pack, telling them to be cautious. The Nighthound took a few steps forward and began to survey the area around, and he noticed a light at the end of the tunnel, and began to smell grass and trees outside. It seemed this would be the final test before freedom. Nighthound snuck past the large troll almost without notice, and by the time the troll did notice, it was too late. It was too quick, and he couldn't catch the Nighthound, and decided to block the way forward for the other dogs. The rest of the pack, Waffle, God, and Schvincent, began to plan how to move forward, while the Nighthound snuck ahead to see if they could get help. As the Nighthound was one with darkness, he stuck to the shadows, trying to see if he could get to the exit or see if he could find help, only to be blocked by 10 trolls, who he deduced that they were guests coming to dinner, by listening to their conversation and hearing them argue about who was going to get the first dinner, and also noticing the invites in all their hands. The Nighthound took a deep breath and stepped out of the shadows to greet them. "Hello, guests. I'm here to check your invites," the Nighthound said. "I thought we were meant to eat the talking dogs," one troll said. "Yeah, but remember they got a pet dog. This one is to trick the other ones," another one said. "All right, I remember now," they said, all nodding in agreement and handing their invites to the Nighthound. The Nighthound looked over them before eating the invitations and led the trolls further into the passage. The trolls followed as the Nighthound led them down a different path, telling them to go ahead this way to his dinner to keep them away from his friends. On his way back, he thought he'd better hurry to see his friends, only to run into a dog. It was a Saint Bernard, who seemed to recognize him. "Nighthound, is that you?" the dog said. And Nighthound realized this was his partner in vigilante justice, Nightbitch. The rest of the pack, unsure what to do, finally decided it was just best to charge the troll. Waffle made the first move, stepped up, and she barked a huge amount of flame towards the troll, which allowed God and Vincent to attack the troll, surprising him. The troll stepped back and cursed at the dogs before swinging his great sword with great speed, and it seemed impossible that the dogs were going to get to strike again, and it all seemed hopeless. "The duo, the Nighthound and Nightbitch," Nighthound said, announcing their presence to the troll before running in and charging, knocking the troll over, allowing the pack to work together and finish off this final beast. The pack, now exhausted and bloodied, they were spurred on by the smell of the outside world. It smelled like freedom. The pack, all together again, followed the tunnel and ran into the light, finally free. It felt like an eternity in those windy tunnels and even longer in that cage, but now they were free. Finally. Now some ask, are the pack still together to this day, or did they go their separate ways? Nobody really knows, but I like to think they're never far apart. Not after an experience such as this, anyway. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this was a bit of an experiment. Let me know what you think in the comments below, whether you want to hear something again like this, or you want to hear something different, or whatever you want me to do next. Put in the comments and we'll see what we can do. If you do want to follow me on my social medias, you can do so on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter in the description below. If you do want to follow any of my players, you can do that as well in the description below as well. Otherwise, if you did enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share to your friends. If you don't have any friends, just share to your dog, your cat, even your fish. Have a lovely day, keep rolling those dice, but don't let them define you.